Hi, welcome to our study of patterns found in the Gospel of Mark. Today I want to look at Jesus' last week, what people will call the Passion Week. The word passion means to suffer, and it doesn't only mean the physical suffering, which people call the Passion of Christ, is his death upon the cross, but it's also that entire week. He was going through highs and lows when it came to emotions, mental suffering that he had to struggle with. And I believe a Christian needs to be able to walk through his last week understanding what Jesus was doing as he was going to the cross, to understand the character of Jesus that much richer. And the more I understand Christ, the more I can be like him. So with the Passion Week, I believe it begins on the Sunday morning. He spent the Saturday at Zacchaeus' house, recorded in Luke. On that Sunday morning, he's now going to leave, and he can travel up to Bethany. And he does. And as he's leaving Jericho, that's when he sees Bartimaeus. And Bartimaeus is crying out, "Son of David, have mercy on me." So Jesus not only releases this blind man from his captivity by opening his eyes so he could see, but that blind man does an amazing thing. He continues to follow Jesus where he goes to Jerusalem. So at the end of the week, that blind man has the ability to witness the death, burial, the resurrection of his Lord and Savior. So Jesus must have been really excited at this beginning because of the excitement that Bartimaeus had for him. So they travel all that day, Sunday. Then that night, Sunday night, or as the Jews would have it, Monday, because the Jews start their day, night, day. We have day, night. So the Jews start at 6 o'clock that night. That's when he has a meal with the last meal with his loved ones, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus at their home in Bethany. That's recorded in John chapter 12. That's where Mary anoints his feet with the perfume, dries his feet. Judas gets all upset about the expense of the perfume and demands that we sell it for the money for the poor. And Jesus says, "Leave her alone. Let her keep it for my burial." So that's a very emotional night, that night of Sunday night. Then come Monday morning, here's the triumphal entry. Now this is the 10th, and you see I've got the dates here. This is the 10th of Abib. The 10th of Abib is the day that all of the Jews pick a 1-year-old male lamb without blemish, and you take it home, and then you keep it in your house. You fall in love with this lamb, and then come the 14th, which will be on the Thursday night, that's when you kill it, which is the Passover. So if you take a look at our video on Jesus' birthday was the 10th of Abib. So it could have been his birthday party the night with Mary and those guys. But the triumphal entry is, now he's turning 33 years old, and he's coming down into Jerusalem. And everybody's dropping palm branches and coats. What an emotional high for him. When he gets there, he doesn't go to the temple. So what does he do? He returns to Bethany that evening, as Mark records. Come the next day, now he goes to the temple and spends the day there, and he cleanses the temple. They finish up with the temple, and they go back out to Bethany. Now, from what I believe that's happening here is Jesus is spending every night at the Garden of Gethsemane because he's got the 12. So there's 13 of them. There's no room at Martha and Mary's house for 13 of these guys to crash in the living room. Jesus has gone around the countryside, so they are used to sleeping out under the stars every night. So the reason why I say that every one of these nights, when they go back to Bethany, that they're sleeping down there at the Garden of Gethsemane, which is just outside of Bethany, is because on the night of the Passover, Judas doesn't know where they're headed to, unless they're going up to Gethsemane, and they've always been up in Gethsemane, because Jesus doesn't say where they're headed to. But when Judas leaves the Passover, he gets the guards, and he goes directly to the Garden of Gethsemane. So it had to have been their habit to have found that as their location for sleeping at night, and then they would come into town. So they're up into Bethany. And now Jesus has really got to be focused on this night in Bethany, our Tuesday night, because of the next day. On the Wednesday is the day he spends teaching to convict the false teachers. This is that block of time you'll see in Matthew, and you'll see in Mark, and you'll see in Luke, where Jesus is teaching the people, and he's being challenged. Do you pay taxes? He's being challenged. Whose wife is she? What's the greatest commandment? And Jesus is saying in Matthew, woe to you, Pharisees, Sadducees, you hypocrites. He gets right on their case because this is the last day he's got. He's got to shake these guys up because if he doesn't connect here on the Wednesday, they're not going to be able to save their souls. So he's trying to teach them to the best of his ability. So he's really focused that night, and he's really energetic in his teaching all day Wednesday. Then come that night, they go back up to Bethany, and this is the night that they spend at Simon the leper's house. This is when Mary comes in, breaks the vial, pours it over his hair, preparing him for his burial. And this is the night that the disciples now get all upset, where if you've done any of our Mark studies in Mark chapter 14, here's where you see the hypocrisy, and he deals with that throughout that chapter. Come Thursday, he sends 2 disciples to prepare the table, Mark chapter 14, and then it's that Thursday night, or as the Jews would understand, on that Friday, is when he does the Passover meal, turning it into the Lord's table. That's the night he's arrested, and then he has 3 trials before the Jews, and then Friday 3 trials before the Gentiles. And that's the Passion Week. And I only wanted to bring it up to here because we've already done a video that talked about the last 18 hours of Christ. From the time that he was at the Passover, where it talks about the 3 lessons at the Passover, the 3 prophecies, then the 3 events in the Garden of Gethsemane. And if you go through all of these 3s, they give you a nice little pattern that'll take you right down through the day up to his death, burial, and then the 3 days and 3 nights in Hades, the last 18 hours of Christ. For our sake, for tonight, all I wanted to do was be able to walk through his final week. There's a lot of people that argue that Jesus was not crucified on the Friday. And so what I would like to say to that is, in Mark 10:34, he's saying they will mock him and they will spit on him, scourge him, kill him, and 3 days later he will rise again. He's going to rise 3 days later. He dies on the Friday. He's in the tomb on the Saturday, and he rises on the Sunday. 3 days. Anything earlier than that, it would have been 4 days or 5 days. But Jesus rose on the 3rd day. Friday at 3 p.m. when Jesus died, he went straight to Hades. Has nothing to do about the grave where they rolled the stone. And it was so dark that the stars came out. It was, as they were commanded to do, sacrifice the lamb at twilight. And then the sun came out after he died. So when you look at it, there you got Friday night from 12 o'clock till 3 o'clock, because God did this miraculous thing by creating night when Jesus dies. Then after he died, the sun comes back out. So you got night day. Then you got Saturday night, you got Saturday day, then you got Sunday night, then you got Sunday day. So if you're really particular about 3 days and 3 nights, right, you've got it right there. But the purpose of this is really to get us to understand the Passion Week. On the Sunday, he travels up to Bethany, where he spends the evening with Lazarus, Martha, and Mary. On the Tuesday is the triumphal entry. Then back to Bethany to spend the night. Or on the Monday is a triumphal entry to spend the night. On the Tuesdays, when he cleanses the temple. On the Wednesday is when he does all this massive teaching. And then that night he spends a dinner at Lazarus or at Simon the leper's home. Thursdays when they prepare the upper room, and that Thursday night is when he does the Lord's table, and then gets arrested, dying on the Friday at 3 o'clock. He gives his life to his Father, and that is the Passion Week. And as I go through that week, the challenge is, what kind of emotions was he experiencing on each of the different days? I mean, I could tell you what I think, but I think it's something for each of us to work out as we think about what Jesus was doing on our behalf on his last week here on earth while he was alive. Thank you for watching.